My name is Mark Totten, and I am running for the Kalamazoo Public Schools Board of Education. I had some friends approach me originally and asked me if I would consider doing this, and my first response was, after a very busy last 2 years, that I probably didn't want to do it. But I went home and I told my wife, Kristen, and she said, Mark, you need to do this, and if you don't run, I'm going to run. And I think she was completely serious. And the more we talked about it, the more we just sensed that this was an incredible opportunity to be a leader on an issue that perhaps matters more to this community than anything else. We had a sense, first of all, that I was incredibly blessed to grow up and graduate from the schools here. I have many distinct memories of teachers who just profoundly shaped my life, and I think made it possible for me to have some of the opportunities I had. Certainly my mom was the most important influence, but the education I got here in the schools was critically important, and it really changed the course of my life. And this is a way to give something back. I think beyond that, we just had a sense as well that there is an amazing opportunity right now. This is really, I think, a critical moment for Kalamazoo. We have this amazing resource in the Promise, and the question is whether we're going to be able to make it work. That's the challenge that lies before us, and that's one of the things that I want to be most committed to investing in and helping to realize. Well, let me just share a little bit about a few of the kind of hats that I wear that I think put me in a good position to be a leader on issues of education in our community. First of all, I grew up here in the community, and I'm a graduate of the Kalamazoo Public Schools. I started in kindergarten, went through King Westwood, North Glade, over to Hillside and Kalamazoo Central. And so I'm going to be a leader on an issue that I've been directly involved in and that really shaped a good part of my life. I'm also the father of a couple young kids who are going to be starting in the system fairly soon. My son Jake is 2 years old, my daughter Grace is 4 years old, and over the next few years they're both going to enter the system. And for me, I want to get started right now, being in a position to help make better what I think is already a really strong and good system. I also grew up in the home of a teacher. My mom was a single parent, and she taught in the Kalamazoo Public Schools for over 30 years, just retired a few years ago. And so I grew up with just kind of a sense of the challenges that she faced. I'm also an educator myself. I'm a teacher up at Michigan State University. I teach in the area of law and ethics, so I think I have a real sense of what we need to prepare our kids to be able to do. And lastly, I've been a mentor in the schools for the last 3 years. Every week I've spent an hour in the schools mentoring an at-risk kid to make sure that he can succeed. And so I think those are all experiences that put me in a good position to be a leader on education issues. Okay, so let's start out and make sure that we have a real clear sense of what the problem is here, because it's really a significant challenge that we face. Right now, if the cuts go through that have been proposed by the governor, we will lose, in terms of the money that's given per child, we will lose approximately $900 per child. That'll mean a total of about $11.5 million less revenue coming into the Kalamazoo Public Schools. And just to put that in perspective, over the last 12 years, we've made cuts almost every year to the system, which has totaled almost $23 million. In 1 year, we're going to face an $11.5 million cut, which is just tremendous. One more way to put that in perspective is that this education cut is the largest cut in the history of Michigan by a factor of 5. It's 5 times larger than any cut we've ever faced in the history of the state. So this is a devastating cut, and there's no way around it that this is going to have a direct impact on our kids. And the question is, what do we do with that? How do we adjust for that? And I think the difficult truth is that there is going to be no person and no program that is going to escape the cuts that we're going to face. I don't relish that. I think it's going to be devastating. But the fact of the matter is that we're going to have to address every aspect: class sizes, programs, athletics, teacher pay and compensation. Everything's going to have to be up for consideration. But I'm going to make sure that all the cuts we make do the least damage to our kids. So I think that there is one hugely significant problem that we have faced for a number of years, and that we have to try to address, and that is the glaring achievement gap in student achievement. This gap largely falls along racial and socioeconomic grounds. We have one of the largest achievement gaps in the state. We have a larger achievement gap than the city of Detroit, and it's fueled in part by a hugely significant poverty rate among our kids. 70% of our kids qualify for free or reduced lunch here in Kalamazoo, which is a higher poverty rate than even the city of Detroit. Most people don't realize that, but we face some extraordinary challenges here. So what are we going to do about that? For me, that is just a pressing moral issue. And so one thing that I think we need to do is make sure that we successfully implement the reforms that have been pushed through in the last 3 or 4 years. I believe that Dr. Rice is doing a very good job. He's been a incredible leader, I think, in trying to address this problem. And so making sure that the system-wide homework policy, making sure that the doubling up on math and reading for middle school students, making sure that we stay committed to full-day kindergarten, all those types of measures we need to successfully implement. And then we need to make sure that we bring the community on board as well, and I'll say a little bit more about that in a minute. Well, let me start out by just saying this, and then I want to focus on something else. But I want to say that I think our teachers are one of the most important assets that we have. They're the ones who are on the front lines. They're the ones who ignite that spark that can change a child's life. And I know that from firsthand experience, because I had amazing teachers, Miss Jean Schmeichel, Miss Osborne, Miss Michael Griffith, so many who really just changed my life. And so we need to make sure that they're equipped to do their jobs, and that we really value the strong and important work that they do. We have an amazing opportunity here that almost no other school district in the whole nation has, and we know it as the Kalamazoo Promise. Here's the challenge. We need to make sure that the Kalamazoo Promise is not just something that makes it a little bit easier for those kids who would already succeed, but that it really reaches out and helps those kids who otherwise might get left behind. So how do we do that? I think there's a lot of things we need to do. I want to talk about one, and I call it the Kalamazoo Partnership, or the Partnership, and I think it's the complement to the Promise. It's reaching out to the community and making sure that we have partners from cradle to career who are on board to help us solve this problem. More specifically, it's an organized effort among civic, business, and government leaders, organized around a common goal, shared measurements of success, and regular communication, coming together to make sure that in all aspects that we are working together to solve some of these huge and difficult problems. So there's a lot of reasons that I really care about education. Certainly watching my mom, who was a first grade teacher for over 30 years, certainly looking at my own experience and realizing what a difference it makes. But there's another more basic reason, and it has to do with what I think this country is all about. It's the fundamental moral commitment that we make in this country to say that it shouldn't matter where you grow up or what circumstances you face to be able to succeed in life. And that's why I especially care about education, because I think education is the way we keep faith with that commitment. It's how we give our kids a set of tools so that they can go out and reach their potential. I am just excited to be not only, I hope, if the voters put me in this position, a leader on education, or a member of the school board, but also a leader on education in this community. And I've been working hard to build partnerships with people who I think are going to be vital to that effort. I'm just so grateful to have the support of Mayor Bobby Hopewell, of Representative Sean McCann, of former Representative Mary Brown, of Jim Green, who's the Executive Director of the Douglas Community Association, of Reverend Milton Wells, one of our many pastors who are passionate about education in this community. And I'm going to work as hard as I can, partnering with these people to make sure that the promise becomes a reality for all our kids.